A nightmare on Blackwater Lake. The sun hung low in the sky as the vibrant hues of red, white, and blue painted the world in patriotic celebration. It was July 4th, a day of festivities and cheer. But little did the revelers know, on the tranquil waters of Blackwater Lake in northern Wisconsin, a darkness lurked, waiting to turn their joy into a nightmare. Amongst the families gathered for the holiday was the Petersons. Mark and Lisa Peterson, along with their 2 children, Emma and Ethan, had traveled to their lakeside cabin to enjoy a peaceful weekend getaway. The cabin stood nestled among towering pines, its weathered walls holding cherished memories of summers past. As dusk settled over the lake, laughter and merriment filled the atmosphere as the Petersons and their neighbors gathered on the porch, eagerly awaiting the colorful spectacle that was about to unfold in the night sky. But as the first fireworks burst into dazzling patterns overhead, a sinister presence crept through the forest surrounding the lake. Unbeknownst to the Petersons and their friends, a deranged hermit named Samuel DeWitt resided in a decaying shack hidden deep within the woods. Samuel had shunned society for years, his mind twisted by isolation and despair. Tonight, on this special night of celebration, Samuel had sinister plans in mind. He had grown resentful of the joyous echoes that reached his ears from across the water, a reminder of the happiness he had lost. Determined to extinguish the festivities, he prepared to unleash his own brand of terror upon the unsuspecting revelers. As the fireworks reached their crescendo, the sky erupted in a dazzling display of colors. But amidst the spectacle, something seemed off. The vibrant bursts of light cast unsettling shadows over the lake, as if hinting at the darkness that lay beneath its serene surface. Emma and Ethan, filled with youthful excitement, pleaded with their parents to go out on the lake in their small boat to get a closer view of the fireworks. Mark and Lisa exchanged a cautious glance, their parental instincts sensing the foreboding atmosphere. Reluctantly, they agreed, trusting their instincts to keep their children safe. The lake shimmered under the moonlight as the family set off, their boat slicing through the calm waters. The distant booms of fireworks reverberated in their chests, but the air felt heavier now, pregnant with an unknown threat. Suddenly, as if summoned by the dark forces at play, a dense fog rolled in from the surrounding forest, shrouding the lake in an impenetrable curtain. Visibility diminished to a mere arm's length, and panic gnawed at the edges of the Petersons' composure. Lost in the swirling haze, their boat came to a halt, the water seemingly devoid of life. Desperation etched deep lines on Mark's face as he tried to navigate their way back to the safety of the cabin. But every attempt to find their bearings was met with disorientation and frustration. It was then that they heard it, the haunting melody of a violin cutting through the fog. The music swirled around them, hypnotic and chilling. Emma and Ethan clung to their parents, their small bodies trembling with fear. Through the mist emerged a silhouette, a figure draped in tattered rags, the violin tucked under a bony chin. It was Samuel DeWitt, the deranged hermit who had unleashed his wrath upon the lake. With every stroke of the bow, the water beneath their boat transformed into a writhing mass of black tendrils, reaching upward with a malevolent hunger. The once placid lake now surged with a merciless fury, threatening to consume the Petersons and their boat. Lisa, her voice choked with terror, pleaded with Samuel to spare their lives. But his eyes, glazed with madness, held no mercy. He reveled in the torment he had created, finding pleasure in the fear that etched itself into the faces of his victims. Mark snatched the oar and swung it with all his might, striking Samuel across the head. The hermit's body crumpled to the floor of the boat, the violin slipping from his grasp and falling silent. With the source of the dark magic subdued, the fog began to dissipate, revealing the lake in its natural tranquility. Trembling and gasping for breath, the Petersons steered their boat back to shore, their hearts heavy with the horrors they had witnessed. As they stumbled onto the safety of solid ground, a collective sigh of relief escaped their lips. But even as they clung to one another, they knew the nightmares of that fateful July 4th on Blackwater Lake would forever haunt their dreams. And so, as the last embers of the fireworks flickered in the night sky, the Petersons retreated to the safety of their cabin, forever scarred by the darkness that had tainted their day of celebration. The memories of that night would forever remind them that even on the brightest of days, evil could lurk just beneath the surface, ready to unleash its horrors upon the unsuspecting. A night of fire and blood. July 4th, a night of celebration and freedom, bathed the world in a vibrant display of fireworks. In the heart of a remote forest, a group of friends had sought solace in a secluded cabin, their spirits high with anticipation. Little did they know that their gathering would become a horrifying ordeal, a battle for survival against a relentless serial killer. The cabin stood nestled among towering pines, its aged exterior blending with the wild landscape. Inside, Mark, Lisa, Tom, and Emily prepared for an evening of revelry. Boxes of fireworks lay scattered across the worn wooden floor, awaiting their moment to burst into colorful life. Excitement crackled in the air, but unbeknownst to them, danger lurked in the shadows beyond. As twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and gold, the group ventured outside. The rhythmic pop of firecrackers echoed through the forest, their vibrant lights dancing amidst the trees. Mark, the joker of the group, lit a sparkler, its fiery tail casting a glow upon their faces as they laughed and danced. But as the night deepened, a sense of unease settled upon them. The woods, once inviting and serene, seemed to harbor a malevolent presence. An eerie stillness enveloped the air, broken only by the sporadic bursts of fireworks. Lisa, the most perceptive of the group, couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that they were being watched. Her instincts screamed danger, urging her to seek shelter within the safety of the cabin. She voiced her concerns, but the others dismissed them as mere paranoia, eager to embrace the spirit of the holiday. Reluctantly, Lisa joined her friends in lighting off more fireworks. As the explosions of light filled the sky, a series of haunting screams pierced the night. Panic gripped the group as they realized the blood-curdling cries were not from the fireworks, but from something far more sinister. They rushed towards the source of the screams, their hearts pounding with fear. The dim glow of a dying firework revealed a horrifying sight, a body lying motionless on the forest floor. The lifeless eyes of their friend, Tom, stared back at them, his expression etched with terror. Realization crashed upon them like a wave, their peaceful celebration had turned into a nightmarish trap. They were being hunted by a sadistic serial killer. Panic gripped their hearts as they realized the predator could be hiding anywhere, watching their every move. Frantically, they retreated to the cabin, their steps heavy with dread. Lisa's pleas for them to barricade the doors and windows fell on deaf ears, overridden by the desperate need to find safety. They huddled in the center of the room, their minds racing with terrifying possibilities. Silence descended upon the cabin, broken only by the distant crackle of burning wood. The group held their breath, straining their ears to catch any sound that might betray the killer's presence. Outside, the forest seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating the unfolding horror. With a sudden crash, the cabin door swung open, the sound reverberating through the room like a death knell. A masked figure stood in the doorway, a glint of malice reflected in their eyes. The killer moved with a predatory grace, his steps deliberate and unhurried. The group's terror escalated to a crescendo as they realized their fate lay in the hands of this merciless predator. They scattered, desperately seeking any means of escape, but the killer moved swiftly, cornering them one by one. Emily, her heart pounding in her chest, found herself in a dimly lit corridor, her breath shallow and ragged. Shadows danced on the walls as she retreated, her eyes darting around for any sign of a way out. But the killer advanced, his presence suffocating. A surge of adrenaline propelled Emily forward. She stumbled upon a hidden passage, obscured by a dusty tapestry. Without hesitation, she pushed through, finding herself in a long-forgotten basement. The air hung heavy with dampness, the scent of decay clawing at her senses. As she crept through the darkness, Emily stumbled upon a gruesome sight: bodies, a macabre gallery of the killer's victims, suspended from the ceiling. The stench of death overwhelmed her, threatening to consume her fragile composure. Desperation fueled her every step as she searched for a way out, praying that survival would be within reach. Meanwhile, Lisa and Mark found themselves backed into a corner, their options dwindling. A flicker of hope ignited within them as they discovered an old hunting rifle, its wooden stock worn with age. Determination etched their faces as they prepared to make their final stand. Emily, her senses heightened by fear, stumbled upon an exit, a cellar door leading to the outside world. But just as her trembling hand reached for the doorknob, a cold breath whispered across her neck. The killer stood before her, his eyes devoid of humanity, a sadistic grin etched on his lips. With every ounce of strength she possessed, Emily fought back. Her fingers closed around a shard of broken glass, its jagged edge becoming her only weapon. She lashed out, slashing at her attacker with a ferocity born of survival instinct. As the struggle ensued, Mark and Lisa burst into the basement, their faces etched with determination. The room erupted into chaos, a symphony of screams and desperate pleas for mercy. In a whirlwind of violence, the group fought for their lives, refusing to succumb to the darkness that threatened to consume them. Finally, the tables turned. The killer, wounded and weakened, stumbled backward, his mask slipping to reveal a face twisted with madness. With one last act of defiance, the friends overpowered their tormentor, subduing him and ensuring his reign of terror would end. Breathless and battered, the group emerged from the cabin, the first rays of dawn casting a glimmer of hope upon their weary souls. The nightmare was over, but the scars would forever remain, a reminder of the horrors they had faced on this fateful July 4th. As they stumbled upon a road, a passerby called out, his voice filled with concern. Help had arrived, rescue at last. The group clung to each other, seeking solace in the knowledge that they had survived the darkest of nights. But even as they left the cabin and the horrors it held behind, they knew that the memory of this night would haunt them forever, a chilling reminder that evil could lurk in even the most idyllic of settings. The Night of Vanishing Souls. July 4th brought with it a sense of excitement and community in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Greenwood Hills. Families and friends gathered on their lawns, eagerly awaiting the annual neighborhood fireworks show. Little did they know that this night of celebration would unravel into a nightmare of vanishing souls. The warm summer air carried the scent of barbecues and laughter, blending with the anticipatory buzz of the crowd. The homeowners, Dave, Sarah, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and several other neighbors, had come together to organize a spectacular firework display. It was a gesture of unity, a chance for the community to bond and revel in the colors that painted the night sky. As the sun set, the group of neighbors gathered at the Johnsons' backyard, where a temporary stage had been set up to launch the fireworks. Excitement mingled with nervous energy as they prepared for the spectacle. The children watched in awe, their eyes filled with wonder, while the adults laughed and chatted, enjoying the camaraderie. The first firework burst into the sky, igniting a shower of red and gold. Cheers erupted from the crowd, mingling with the crackling explosions. But as the fireworks dazzled overhead, a sense of unease began to creep into the hearts of the neighbors. Dave, the jovial host, noticed his wife, Sarah, was missing. Puzzled, he scanned the crowd, searching for her familiar face. Panic gripped his heart as he realized she had vanished without a trace. Frantically, he called out her name, but the only response was the echo of his own voice. The atmosphere in the crowd shifted, unease replacing the initial excitement. Whispers of concern circulated, as one by one, more neighbors went missing. Mr. Johnson, the neighborhood's pillar of strength, disappeared as his wife looked on in disbelief. The night began to mirror a ghost town, empty spaces where loved ones once stood. Fear clouded the once jubilant atmosphere, causing the neighbors to cast suspicious glances at one another. Paranoia clung to their thoughts as they contemplated who among them could be responsible for these disappearances. Trust dissolved like smoke in the wind, leaving behind a sense of isolation and despair. As the last firework exploded overhead, illuminating the neighborhood in a fleeting burst of light, a collective realization settled upon the remaining neighbors. They were alone, trapped in a sinister game orchestrated by an unknown force. Driven by desperation, the remaining neighbors banded together, determined to unravel the mystery and escape the clutches of their captor. Fear and determination mingled in their eyes as they scoured the neighborhood, searching for any clues that could lead them to their missing loved ones. Dark secrets were unveiled, hidden resentments and grievances seeped through the cracks of their seemingly idyllic lives. Each revelation deepened the suspicion, casting shadows upon those left behind. The neighborhood, once a picture of unity, became a labyrinth of distrust. As the night wore on, the group's hope dwindled, replaced by the cold realization that they were pawns in a sadistic game. They had been lured into this nightmarish trap, their joy transformed into a dance of despair. They had become mere playthings for a malevolent force, their fate sealed by its unseen hand. One by one, the remaining neighbors succumbed to the void. Their cries for help went unanswered, swallowed by the shadows that now enveloped the neighborhood. The streets echoed with their screams, but there was no one left to hear. In the end, only one neighbor remained, the youngest of them all, a teenager named Lily. She had managed to evade capture, her youth and quick thinking serving as her armor. But she was left standing in a neighborhood devoid of life, surrounded by the echoes of her neighbors' fading voices. Lily's heart weighed heavy with grief as she realized there was no escape. She would forever be haunted by the memory of this night, the lost souls of her neighbors etched into her soul. She would be the one left to carry their stories, their hopes, and their unanswered questions. In the depths of the empty suburban streets, Lily closed her eyes, the weight of despair crushing her spirit. The darkness embraced her, and the neighborhood of Greenwood Hills became a tomb, a monument to the lives extinguished on this cursed July 4th. And as the sun rose on a new day, a chilling silence settled over the deserted neighborhood, its quiet streets forever marked by the tragedy that unfolded on that fateful night, a reminder that sometimes, in the face of overwhelming darkness, even the brightest celebrations can turn into our deepest nightmares.